Hello everyone, welcome to the gaming table. Today we're going to take a look at the Dungeons & Dragons Essentials Kit. This came out June 24th, so hopefully by the time you see this it's still June 24th. It takes time to upload stuff to YouTube. But it is a Target exclusive game box, if you will. Then the end of September it's going to open up to be sold elsewhere. So if you're interested in this, go ahead and hit Target. If you're past the September 30th-ish time frame, you should be able to get this most anywhere else. Now, what is this? I would say, if I was going to describe this in a couple of words, 3, 4, maybe 5 words, it's what the 5th edition starter box should have been. Now, I did get this when it first came out, was happy to do it. It came with a little rule book, came with a really nice adventure, you had some dice, some character sheets, and it kind of got you going. Now, that was a great way to pop into the 5th edition Player's Handbook because the starter rules was enough to give you the basics of what to do and how to play, savings throw, some equipment. You know, you could play around with your first level characters, but that was about it. And to do much more, you really needed the Player's Handbook, which at the time I thought, you know, that's okay because it's a starter box. Now, it's been a few years. Let's see, this came out, says on here, looking for the year this came out, 2014. So I was just thinking about that. It's probably been about 5 years. So starter kits are nothing really new to Dungeons & Dragons. So a person might ask yourself then, why the Essentials Kit? I actually saw Chris Perkins on the D&D YouTube channel. He was talking about this and I thought, wow, this has a lot of great things to get you going. Now it says an Essentials Kit. It reminded me when 4th edition came out with the Essentials line and they came out with like a Dungeon Master kit and you know, their Monster Vault and things like that. And I got to thinking, you know, well, is this maybe like a relaunch? And I wouldn't say it's a relaunch. It looks like it is just Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but it's presented in a much more presentable gateway. So if you haven't played Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition before, I think this is a much better way to get into the game. So a question might be, do I need this if I have other starter kits or I'm already playing? Probably not. If you ask my wife, she'll say, oh, it's really just something for the collection. But I still think it's a great addition to your collection, if you will. But yeah, I'd say if you're really just starting out, this is a fantastic. So first of all, you got great artwork. I thought it's good. As Chris Perkins says, there's a dungeon, there's a dragon, so you've got classic things right there. Always somebody fighting a dragon on the cover. Then on the back, this starter kit comes with a lot of stuff. So when I compare that to the first starter kit, this really does have a lot of great stuff to get you going. So you've got a map. It is a double-sided map. It's not 2 maps, it's a single double-sided map. You have your rule book, you have an adventure, you got some cards. Cards, again, kind of remind me of the 4th edition, but they're such a handy little tool. I know there's some for 5th edition, so I like seeing cards included. And a Dungeon Master screen. That's actually very cool. I know with, you know, Dungeons & Dragons, one of those things that's very common is the idea of having your Dungeon Master screen. And there wasn't one with the beginning starter set, so having one here is kind of cool. Now, I've gone ahead and have looked through here because I wanted to understand what was all in the box before I explained to you the contents. So I have a pretty good idea what's in here, and yeah, it is actually really good. First, you get some dice. Now, what is really cool about the dice is not only is it the standard 20-sided 10, you got 3 6-sided like for stat rolling and whatnot, but, well actually there's 4 dice 6. I didn't even open these yet because I don't want to get them all lost. I'm just going to keep them in the bag for now because I've got a lot of other dice, so I'm going to hold on to these and maybe give these to someone who starts playing with me. But this was the thought that was really cool. This comes with 2 die 20. When I first saw that, I did scratch my head and for about 2 seconds was wondering, what why 2 die 20? And then it dawned on me, well, duh, it's for your advantage and disadvantage checks. You can roll 2 die 20 and then pick the better for your advantage or pick the worse for your disadvantage. I thought, how clever. If you're going to have a game mechanic that revolves around specifically some multiple dice, that's very cool they included that. And the nice thing is, it's 11 dice. That's a great value in price. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Oh, I thought it said 11 polyhedral. Oh, there it is. There's a die 4 hiding. So you get 11 dice. Now, depending on where you buy your dice, a lot of places are selling dice for like $1 a piece. So including an extra die 20, that's really, really cool. So I was very happy with that. So 2 die 20 for your advantage and disadvantage. And then the rest of the dice I would say are your standard polyhedral, including the percentile. Nice touch, thank you. And they are pre-filled in. Would it have been a nice touch if they included a crayon? For a very, very nostalgic, yeah, I'm happy they got them all pre-filled in. All right, so that is your dice. Set those aside. Now, what was really cool too was having this little box. This is going to hold all your cards. What is really clever is I was afraid about assembling all this back, but when you lay down the cards and you put the box lid on, it all fits perfectly. And then there's a little bit of room for some pencils and things like that. So far, the box size is looking up really good. Plus, if you need to put other stuff in here, like a player's handbook or something, you're going to have to put the cards off to the side. But if you use the box just like this, it all fits perfectly. Okay, so the cards, what are we talking about? Well, these are not poker playing cards. They actually came as a perforated sheets of paper. And they weren't horrible. I shouldn't say sheets of paper. They're pretty good cardstock, a little bit of a gloss to them. But they are all perforated and they all kind of come together. There's like 9 per sheet, and you just didn't have to use scissors or anything like that. You just kind of fold it back and forth enough times that it gets really weak on the perforation and they just pop apart. And they've included several types of cards in here, and they're all very much specific to supporting the adventure that comes in here. But to be quite honest, they are cards that you could use beyond that game as well, as long as it's specifically these items that you're using. Now, what is pretty cool here, in fact, we'll show you this side. So you've got a bunch of magic items that already come here. So what I'm going to do is just kind of separate these out. And quite a few magic items. That's why I was saying you could use some of this beyond the game as well. It's just, you know, they don't have every magic item from the player's handbook. They've already got cards for that. But again, this is thinking at it from a person who has never bought anything. So if this is your first purchase, boom, you've got these really nice cards. And the cards explain what the magic item is, and then the description, maybe possibly what the abilities and things that they transfer. And there's quite a few in here. I didn't count or memorize the count of how many there are, but you do get quite a few. There's a Dread Helm, Dust of Disappearance, Goggles of Night, Hat of Wizardry, Lute of Illusions, Mithril Chainmail, Necklace of Fireballs, a Mystery Key, Pole of Collapsing. Then there were several Potions of Healing, because you always need Potions of Healing, it feels like, if you don't have a cleric with a lot of healing spells. Potion of Invulnerability, Potion of Water Breathing. So some of these are just one of each thing, and that's fine. There's 2 Sending Stones, Staff of Bird Calls, Umbrage Hill Quest. Oh, I mixed in a quest here. I didn't mean to put that in there right yet. But a nice selection of magic items. That's item 1, if you will. Now there is right here, there's a magic charm. This is right in the quest. If they do a certain thing, they get a charm of the storm, which is a lightning bolt that you can cast. I won't read all the details. I'm going to leave some surprises. So yeah, if you're a player, just take this all as a spoiler. Maybe not watch, okay? So I'm going to try not to give too much away, but I'm just sharing with you. It's pretty exciting what they've got. Now the quest cards, okay, I won't show you the quest cards. These quest cards are actually in support of the story. So there's going to be opportunities for you to go and do what I would call like little side quests along your main quest. And then the Dungeon Master, to help you remember what to do, they'll just hand you a card with the appropriate quest. give that to you, and then you can read all the details about your quest. So I'm not going to show you those because I think that is definitely a spoiler and I don't want to give that away. So quest cards. Then this is clever. I know people use many ways to track initiative, but again, right out of the box without having to purchase anything else. Kaboom, kebab. You got these really cool initiative cards. Once you determine initiative order, you just hand the player their appropriate place in the initiative order. And I think there's 9. So you can have several characters and then a few creatures that you might say, yeah, the orcs are going 5th. Again, necessary? No. But again, if you don't have much experience with tracking initiative, this isn't a bad touch. So I thought that was kind of cool. So you got some initiative cards. Then we have some combat cards. There's 3 of these, if I remember right. And they're kind of cool, so you can just hand these out, and it's just a very brief reminder of combat steps. Again, you just hand that to somebody. Perfect, again, for new players. They can go, okay, we're going to determine surprise, establish our positions, like initiative, right there, initiative. Then we take turns, and then we start the next round. So that's pretty nice little touch there. We've also got condition cards. It would have been nice, but again, would have cost more, used more paper. But there is 1 of each condition card, and there's times where players will have, multiple players might become deafened or unconscious or who knows, but they can share. And it's just a reminder. So if you forgot what it's like to be unconscious, here, I'm just going to hand you this really cool unconscious card, or stunned. And I really like the artwork. I think that's cool. And then on the back side, tells you exactly what happens when you're stunned. So restrained, prone, poisoned, petrified, paralyzed, invisible, incapacitated, grappled, I'm frightened, deafened, I think there's one here, stuck, charmed, and then blinded. So cool little artwork, and then all the information you need for that condition. Yeah, multiple would have been nice, but again, they can share, and not everybody's, it's fine. This last set of cards, this is really cool. I think, oh, my camera's trying to find the face. This is actually a really neat thing. These are sidekicks, and there's a handful of them. Now, the sidekick in general is, on the back here, it's got some personality traits, tells you a little bit about the person. And the idea is you could play this adventure with 1 player. So it could be a dungeon master and 1 player. Then what you can do is pick a companion. And there's a few here. And the back kind of gives you some ideas on how you could role play that. And then watching the interview with Chris Perkins, it was like, well, this makes perfect sense. A new player doesn't necessarily, since they don't quite know how to play the game, it's difficult to do an adventure kind of solo, so you might want to run 2 characters. But it might be a little overwhelming for a brand new person to run 2 fully statted out characters. So what you could do is take your character and then you can give them a sidekick. The sidekick card just kind of tells you a little bit about the person, their personality, but inside the rule book, which I'm going to pull that out here real quick, it has at the back, let me get it here, some stat blocks. So you can kind of pick like a level 1 spellcaster archetype or an expert or warrior, and then it gives you just a little bit of information on how to level them up. So the idea is we're not, well, I say we, like I had something to do with, but they didn't want to overwhelm a new person with 2 completely statted out characters, especially if you had like a magic user and now you're responsible for keeping track of magic spells and stuff. But with just a statted out companion, you're going to get a little bit of assistance if you need it, and then the dungeon master or you could run your companion, but the 2 of you together could kind of use that companion for help. And I thought, that's cool. Now, do you need this box to do that? No, I think I probably could have been running companions all the time. I usually did just stat out a low-level character, and me as a dungeon master would just play the statted out character. So in essence, I've done this before, but I've never done just kind of a basic statted out person the way that they're doing. So I think that's actually really, really cool. Now, ways that I mean Chris Perkins and the person that was interviewing him in the YouTube I watched, Chris Perkins was saying, well, what you could do is, let's say you have someone who is an experienced Dungeons and Dragons player, they could run the companion and be there to assist and help teach the new player who's running the fully developed character. And then the interviewer was like, well, you could also do it the other way too. And I think either way is kind of valid. You could have the experienced player play the statted out character, just a regular fully designed character, and the brand new person who might be new to role playing in general could play the companion with the stat block. So they have some things they're responsible for, but it's not overwhelming. I think either way is just a nice way to get people introduced to the idea of the story creation and how the game plays. And so I think this is a very clever addition to the starter set. So I really appreciated that they put that in there. So that's a look at the cards that come in this. And this box was very easy to put together. It's pretty much already assembled. It comes flat, but once you fold it out and the cardboard kind of locks into place a little bit, you just fit your cards in. The cards fit perfectly. I have to admit, that's the part that I've been impressed so far about this Essentials kit. Everything fits together really, really well. So we'll just close that up. I kind of wish I had seen this at Origins. I would have picked it up, but I didn't even know it was a thing until just a few days ago. So I only had to wait a couple days to pick it up. So for those who have been waiting for this and maybe on the fence about it, so far I don't think it's a bad purchase. So you get a nice box of cards which supplement the materials. Now you do get a map. Our first starter box did not have a map. So this is kind of neat that we get a nice fold out map. This is the Phandalin area on the Sword Coast here. And you're going to have Phandelver. Well, you got the city of Phandalin on here. So this is what Phandelver, I guess, is the area, and then Phandalin, the city. So this kind of gives you another little map for that. And then finally, you have a map of the city of Phandalin. Now, they had maps and stuff that you could get online before, and there was a map in like the adventure book for the other kit, but it is kind of nice to have a map for that. So, not too shabby. It's not a terrible map. Then we have the adventure. I'm really anxious to read this. I was just kind of flipping through and pretty excited. So again, I'm not going to give too much away as a spoiler, all right? So if you're a player, maybe look away for a moment, but if you're a dungeon master and you run it, I'm just going to grab here. Very happy. I've got the text blocks that I can read out loud. There's a lot of text for the dungeon master notes and whatnot. Again, it's a very well-written adventure as far as how it's presented to the dungeon master. So I'm very anxious to run this. There's quite a bit in here. So this would be a nice adventure that you can take your characters on for a while. Now, I didn't read to see exactly what the levels are for this. So a person might assume, well, they're just for level 1 characters. But I'm going to tell you, what's really interesting about this starter kit is the rule book. I call it a starter kit, but what's really good about this Essentials kit is this rule book. This has probably a good majority of the rules that you need from the player's handbook, but this will also get you up to level 6 characters. And that's the part that just screamed loud to me going, yeah, finally. I think the 4th edition starter kit took you to like level 3 characters. I think the last starter kit, it didn't really level you up except to say, hey, if you level up, here's some stat changes. This actually gives you a chance to play some adventures because, with the world that you have, and this has got some monsters and things that you can play with from the adventure, you really could keep going for a bit and get your characters leveled up. So if you're a new dungeon master, I think this is fantastic. So a good amount of rules that let you actually advance your character. I think that's tremendous. So you got a nice list of spells in here. So this alone that's great. So again, do you need this if you already have previous starter sets? I would say if you have the first starter set and let's say that's all you got, then this would be a really good addition because you could level up your characters. You got some more adventuring opportunities for them. If you already have like the player's handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide and whatnot, it really will just depend on what you're looking for. So again, this is really still geared towards new people, I can see, but I think the adventure though might be worth it for experienced players that are looking to start a new campaign maybe. But again, as far as brand new folks to the game, I think this was a tremendously good value just for this rule book alone. Now, a person could argue, and I know people like to argue, but you get the basic rule book online for free and you get your characters up much higher. But again, some people really like just having the book in their hands, and then the fact that this goes to level 6 probably makes things a little less intimidating than saying, yeah, I'm going into full Dungeons and Dragons. So as far as the starter goes for new people, again, another really good reason to pick this up. Another thing that is always nice to have is the Dungeon Master screen. This has some pretty good artwork on it. I mean, honestly, if the players got to look at the thing, they might as well have something nice to look at. So I think the artwork is pretty good. I'm also looking at it, and I haven't pulled up my other screens. I think this is a little bit shorter, not as high as some other Dungeon Master screens, and that's actually welcome. That's fine. Because sometimes the Dungeon Master, if they get the full height screen, it's almost like a real big barrier between them and the player. And that's always kind of bothered me. I don't usually use a Dungeon Master screen because I don't like having that wall between me and the players. However, kind of having a less than full height screen, I think is good. So this is actually a really good approach to the Dungeon Master screen. Now it isn't the hard, thick cardboard that you would get, but it is sturdy enough that it will stay up, it will hold itself in place, and you can use it effectively. So you could eventually move on. They just released a new Dungeon Master screen not too long ago, or maybe it's on pre-order, I don't know, I just saw they got a new Dungeon Master screen. But this looks like it's got your basics, actions and combat. Some of the artwork looks like stuff right out of the player's handbook anyway. But there's your conditions, some difficulty checks for different things, food, drink, lodging costs, you know, just some basic stuff there. Mostly we just use this so we can secretly plot, plan, and roll dice to make our players' lives miserable. And then it's got really nice character sheets, actually. These are a really nice paper. I know, who knew you'd want to talk about paper on your character sheets? But there it is. And they're really nice looking. This one had a little bit of a mar. I don't know what that is, but I'll get over it. But let me see, I think there were 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 character sheets. They look pretty standard, which is fine. I wouldn't expect them to be much anything else, but yeah, it's enough to get you going. And I would say that's everything you need to really get in and start playing Dungeons and Dragons. So you got some rules on character creation. Oh, and I would say that was something I didn't notice. Now that I mentioned that and talk about character creation, I did not notice any pre-generated characters. The only thing that might be a concern for folks is the fact that they don't have any characters to compare their creation against. And so, you know, they might have to go elsewhere to find that. So that's probably just a minor quibble I just thought of. Probably not a concern for anyone at all. But, you know, if you're a new player and you're really not sure, but then at the same time, I haven't gone through to make a character using this yet. Not that look, I'm not trying to say that character creation is overly complicated. I just was like, oh, there's no pre-gens to compare against. But I'm just going to go back here though if you just read step 1, creating a step, choose a race, choose a class. You got your level information, determine your ability scores, describe your character. So just within a few pages, looks like you're going to get kind of handheld on how to create your own character. So not the end of the world that there's no pre-generated characters, just something I noticed. So we're going to put our character sheets back in the box. We have our Dungeon Master screen. We've got a map of the area. We have the rule book. Oh yeah, I pulled this out and forgot to mention it. So the D&D Beyond is their digital, oh, hide my codes. It's the digital branch of D&D. So when we had like 4th edition, they had a really nice tool on there for character creation and whatnot. So this D&D Beyond, which I would tell you more about, but I don't want to show off all my codes and things. Let's see, what can we show you to advertise it without going too far? No, I don't see anything. But this will let you create characters, and the code was for like a half-off price or something from the Player's Handbook to have in D&D Beyond, so you could do some stuff beyond just the basic stuff, the SRD that's available online. And I think you get to add the adventure from this book in there as well. So that's very cool. And that way you can then have online resources available to your characters. So that's very cool. That's what comes in here. And then there's the adventure, the dice, all the cards, and then finally, that's your essentials kit. Closed up. I really do think that's a good purchase. Even if you already have everything, I always think it's nice to have some resources on hand for brand new players that they could look through and you could use to maybe help ease them into the game. So this is actually a really good addition to your collection, as my wife would put it. Is it necessary though if you're already an experienced party of players? I would probably say no, but I don't know. I guess I'm just a sucker for Dungeons and Dragons stuff in general, so I would probably buy it even though I got everything. I bought it just because it's like, you know what, it's another great resource. It gives you things that you could use in your other campaigns. Not all of it maybe, but at least a new adventure if you want to get a new campaign going. And the fact that they did have in mind that you could do yourself as a dungeon master or a player and then one other player, I thought was really cool. Those are things that people ask all the time. Is this game playable with just like 1 or 2 people? And the answer has always been you could, but your better experience is with a whole bunch of folks, which is arguably still true today. But not everybody has access to a bunch of friends who want to play. So if just you and a friend, spouse, whatever, just want to get in some adventuring on your own, they've thought of that in this product. And I think that's great. And then from there, as you branch out, you can bring more people in and you've got support to level them up for the first 6 levels. And that I thought was a really, really good addition to the basic set, is it gives you a chance to practice and experience that for yourself. And then you can lead right into the Big Player's Handbook. Yeah, I'm really having a hard time saying you don't need this. You don't need, but I think this is a great addition to the starter boxes they've made before, or if you're thinking about bringing new people in, this is a great place to start. All right, well, I will leave it at that because I am just starting to repeat myself, but I really appreciate you taking the time to watch this. If Dungeons and Dragons is something that you're interested in, go ahead and leave your thoughts below. I'd be really curious to see what you've got to say. Anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I will see you some other time. Bye.